If you're looking to dive into learning expressions, this video is exactly what you need. In some of my recent videos, we use expressions to make adjustments. And also, we explored creating macros and templates, which brings us to today's video where we'll be comparing keyframe animations with expressions. Plus, I will explain how we come up with some of those numbers in previous videos. With that being said, let's dive right in. Let us head to DaVinci and continue with the video. Okay, so as you can see, I have the same setup that I had in my last video. Maybe different words and different background colors, but the nodes are arranged the same way. Before I go into the expression that I used in my last video, or at least one of it. By the way, before I keep going, I use the if function. But before I get into the if function that I used in my previous video, we are going to use the simplest form of if function first. Then I get into the formula that I used. All right, let's begin. I've already set up a simple animation. It's quite easy. Let's head to the text. This is where I have my simple animation right here. As you can see, the size has a red dot indicating that we've used animations here or keyframes. So what I did here is forget about the background right now. Let's pay attention to the text. So let me disable the transform so that way we pay attention to the text. And let's take this out. As you can see, the size was zero 0.5 from the starting keyframe, which is 0 to about 10. Then the next frame, the size went to 1. That's easy enough. I believe we all know how to do that. As soon as the keyframe hits frame 10, the next keyframe, it went from size zero 0.5 to size 1. So with keyframes, that's easy enough. There's nothing much to explain there. So the question becomes, how do we do that animation with expression? Now I've made this setup. I have two setups with the same setup formation here, but one is on top and one is below. So we are going to do the same animation that we did here, but we are going to redo that with expression. So let's head to the second text. So we are going to go to the text. Now we are going to head to the layout and we are going to write expressions, trying to copy the same animation that we just did in the first text. Okay, so we are going to begin writing expressions on the size. So what we're going to do now is we are going to right click on size and we are going to click on expressions or expression. I don't know why I keep putting that S at the end. So let's head back and see what's going on with the last animations. So if we head back, as you can see, once the keyframe hit 10 and goes past 10, the size went from zero 0.5 to 1. Now we know what happened when frame is less than 10. The size is zero 0.5. But when it's more than 10, the size is 1. All right. So one more time, when the frame is more than 10, it's 1. And when it's less than 10, it's zero 0.5. All right, so let's head back to text where we right click and open our expression. All right, so that's a condition there. Whenever you use the word if, you are implying a condition. So we're gonna start writing if, and for some reason, if is spelled with two I's. Okay, don't ask me why. That's just what it is. All right, so two I if. When you write if, you have to put a bracket or let's say parentheses for those of you who like to use the word parentheses. Okay, so we put parentheses and we want to know what happens when time, again, time is less than 10. We put a comma because that's a statement. So you want to tell the computer that you're done with the statement if time is less than 10. Now, after the statement, when time was less than 10, what was the size? Now, you tell the computer the size that you want it to be, which is zero 0.5. Now, the computer knows that. You put another comma, and now what happens if time is not less than 10, which is the false value of the condition? When its time is not less than 10, the size was 1. Boom. And that's it. You put enter. That's exactly what we use on our first text with the keyframes. So if we play the first test and the second test, it's going to have the same animations. So with that in mind, now let's get to the expressions that we used in my previous video. That's simple enough. All right, so let's add this back. By the way, if you hit Control P, you disable or enable your nodes. All right, so let's hit this back. Boom. All right, now let's head to transform. This is where I had my expressions written, and I'm going to put the expressions on the screen, and we're going to explain how I came up with some of those numbers. So we already know how to start. We start writing the if function with apply and f. Then we're going to write the condition first, right? As you can see, if time is less than 8. So with sentence, we have two parameters, which is the x value and y value, which is why these expressions look longer than the usual. However, it's still the same principle. It's just that we have to pay attention to both x and y. So the animation that I'm doing here, let's check out the animation. Okay, let's take out those keyframes that we had here, since now we know what's going on down there. All right, so we don't need that no more. So let's take this out. Also, let's take out the expressions here. We don't need this no more. So we could take out the expressions by right clicking and hit remove expression. So let's head back to transform. All right, so the animation here is going from below and top. So when it hits below, it disappears, and when it hit on top, you see it. Now it disappears because I put a mask. So if it goes past that mask, you'll not be able to see it. It has to be within the mask to be able to be visible to you. So let's head back to transform. So when time is less than 8, what do you want it to be when time is less than 8? Okay, so we head to point because that's the parameter, and points have two separate parameters, which is x and the y. So we had our point 0.5 because I didn't need to do anything with the x value. The only thing that I needed to change was the y value because it's moving from the bottom to the top. So how did I come up with 0.313? So in order to go down, the value of y has to be lower than 0.5. So what I did is I found where it is low enough to be below that mask. Okay, so 0.313 was low enough to be below that mask. So that explains how I got that 0.313. All right, so now we hit plus 0.313 plus time times 0.02. So that's the speed of its movement. So how did I get those numbers? Before I tell you the formulas, when you use keyframes, the computer does the timing for you. Let's go to the second transform and do the same thing with keyframes. So if I go to frame 10 and let's use center, we use center. This is where I want it to end. And let's say at the beginning, we want it to go down. Now here we have a visual representation of the animation that you want. So what that means is the computer does the speed calculations for you. Okay, so when you put the first keyframe at 0 and the second keyframe at 10, the computer already knows the exact speed that you need in order for it to go smoothly from 0 to 10. All right, so that's what's happening with keyframes. The computer already done the math for you. All right, let's head back to the first transform. But there's a formula for that. So the formula is the same way you find distance, which is time times speed gives you distance. What you want to do, since you know is speed times time equals distance, you want to find a distance. Even though you're heading to 0.5, 0.5 is the ending destination. So where did you start? I started at 0.313. Okay, so you find the distance. So the distance is 0.5 minus 0.313. The answer is going to be 0.187. So when you find the distance, now you know the time and you know the distance. And the formula is speed times time equals distance. For you to find the speed, you're going to divide distance over time. Let's do that right now. So if we divide, I'm using my iPhone calculator. So if we divide 0.187 divide by the time, which is, I believe is 10, boom. As you can see, it's 0.0187. So I put 0.02, which is very, very close to 0.0187. Okay. If I want it to be perfect, I just go in here and I put 0.0187, enter. So if I do that, then it's going to be absolutely perfect. I spent a lot of time there explaining that. Now we know how we got the time and the speed. All right. That's the true value. Remember, after the true value, you want to write the false value where you want it to be if time is not less than 8. But what's unique about the if function is you could also write another if function within the if function. I'm writing another if function at the false value. Okay. So if you recall, I wanted the animation to happen at the beginning and at the end. So if I just write the beginning, then what happens to the end of the animation? So that's why I had to write another if function so that the animation could also happen at the end of the animation. And the end of animation has a formula because how are you going to get the end of animation if you want it to be adjustable? If it was just this size, what I could just do is I'm just going to go to that composition and I go find out the number and I just use the time frame here, which is around 115, and I just put 115. However, I wanted it to be adjustable so that the animation still happens at the last 10 frames. And there's a formula for it. I didn't make up the formula. The formula is already given. So if you know the formula already, all you need to do is plug it in. And the formula is comp.renderEnd. So comp.renderEnd is referring to the last frame of your composition. So here I say if time is more than comp.renderEnd minus 9. That means the last 9 frame. Now we're looking for another true statement when that second condition is met. Again, the x is not affected because the x is stationary. The y is what is moving. It's going to be more than 0.5. So that's why we use plus to go up from 0.5. So from 0.5, the starting point, we want it to go up. So 0.5 plus, because it's going up. How is it going up? In order to get the time of the last frames like we spoke about, we need to use that same formula, which is comp.renderEnd minus 9 multiplied by 0.1. If you want it to go slower, you reduce the number from 0.1 because 0.1 seems a bit fast. If you reduce it, let's say 0.01, then it's going to go even slower. So let's see. See, it goes even slower. So it didn't even go past where it needed to pass because it was too slow. Let's put it maybe 5. If we put a 5, let's see how it goes. Okay, it's slower than 1, half the speed. It look even smoother actually. Boom. Then if you recall, the first condition was if time is less than 8. And the last condition was if time is come down at the end minus 9, which means if time is in the last 9 frames. So we have two if function, the beginning part and the ending part. So what happened to the middle of the animation? The middle of the animations is the false value. So that's where we are going to put those false value, the final false value, which is the middle part of it, which is point 0.5, 0.5, which is where it is right here. If you could see in this middle part, it didn't move, nothing is happening here. They are all resting at 0.5, 0.5. Voila. And that's the final false value. That's how we got those numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this video. And if you like what you see, hit that like button. And if you want to learn more about expressions, make sure to subscribe to this channel and also check out some of the videos that we've made on expressions. And we are going to make more videos on expressions. So hit that notification button and we will catch you on the next video. Peace.